The kitchen was quiet except for the rhythmic chopping of vegetables. I watched my wife through the doorway as she scrolled through her phone, laughing at something on the screen. That laugh, the one I used to love, now made my stomach turn. "Who's that?" I asked, though I already knew. "Just Daniel," she said, not looking up. "He sent a funny meme about the project we're working on." Daniel. Her boss. The name that had become a constant presence in our home over the past 8 months, though the man himself had never been invited inside. He didn't need to be. He was already everywhere, in her texts, her phone calls, her mind. I set down the knife with more force than necessary. "We need to talk about your birthday dinner." She finally looked up, her smile fading. "What about it?" "I don't want him there." The silence that followed was heavy. She knew exactly who I meant. "Daniel is my boss," she said carefully, as if explaining something to a child. "And my friend. I've invited several people from work." "He's not several people from work. He's the one person you text until midnight. The one you have working lunches with every other day. The one who somehow always needs you to stay late." Her jaw tightened. "You're being ridiculous. We work together. That's what colleagues do." I leaned against the counter, trying to keep my voice steady. "When was the last time you texted Sarah from accounting at 11 p.m.? When was the last time you laughed at James from its memes?" "That's different." "You're right. It is different. Because you don't light up when they message you. You don't rush to check your phone every 5 minutes when they might text." She stood up, crossing her arms. "I can't believe you're being jealous and controlling about my career relationships. Daniel has been instrumental in my promotion prospects. This isn't about your career." I moved closer, searching her eyes for the woman I'd married 5 years ago. "This is about boundaries. This is about respect. This is about us. There is no us versus Daniel. You're creating a problem that doesn't exist." I took a deep breath. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading for weeks. "If you invite him to your birthday dinner, I won't be there." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're giving me an ultimatum? About my own birthday?" "I'm telling you what I need. What our marriage needs. I've watched this friendship, or whatever you want to call it, grow into something that makes me uncomfortable. I've tried to be understanding. I've tried to be supportive. But I'm done watching you prioritize him over us." "Over us? He's my boss. Do you want me to throw away my career because you're insecure?" The word stung, as it was meant to. "This isn't insecurity. I've seen the way you talk about him. The way you defend him. The way you've started dressing differently on days you know you'll see him. I'm not blind. You're seeing things that aren't there." "Am I? Then show me your texts with him. Right now." Her hand instinctively moved to her phone, clutching it. "That's private. Work conversations are confidential." "Work conversations, sure. But the good morning texts? The late night chats about nothing? Those aren't work." She looked away, and in that gesture, I saw everything I needed to know. "You have a choice to make," I said quietly. "You can have whatever this thing is with Daniel, or you can have me. But you can't have both. Not anymore. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. But marriage requires choices. And right now, you need to choose." She stared at me for a long moment, emotions flickering across her face, anger, guilt, defiance. Finally, she spoke. "Fine. I'll invite who I want to my birthday. If you're too insecure to handle it, that's your problem." I nodded slowly, feeling something break inside me. "Okay. Then I guess we both know where we stand." I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there with her phone still clutched in her hand. Behind me, I heard her call out, "You're overreacting. Nothing is going on." But we both knew that wasn't entirely true. And more importantly, we both knew that even if nothing physical had happened yet, something had already been broken, and she'd just chosen not to fix it. The law office smelled like leather and old books. I sat across from Attorney Williams, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that I appreciated. "I want to be clear about something," she said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. "Once you serve these papers, there's no taking it back. Not emotionally, anyway. Even if you reconcile later, she'll always know you were ready to leave." "I am ready to leave," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "I've been ready for weeks. I just needed to be sure I wasn't overreacting." She looked at the printed text messages I'd managed to retrieve from our phone bill, times and frequencies, if not content. The credit card statements showing lunches, coffee shops, one particularly expensive dinner that my wife had claimed was a team celebration, though no one else from her team seemed to know about it. "You're not overreacting," Attorney Williams said. "But I have to ask, do you think there's been a physical affair?" I'd asked myself that question 1,000 times. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe not yet. But does it matter? She's having an emotional affair, clearly. She's choosing him over me repeatedly. She's lying about the extent of their relationship. Where's the line? There isn't one, in terms of how it hurts. The law sees it differently, of course, but pain is pain. She pulled out a folder. "Now, let's talk about timing. You want these served at her birthday party?" "Yes." "That's unconventional. And it will be public. Humiliating." "She made her choice public," I said. "She decided to invite him to what should have been an intimate celebration despite my explicit concerns. She decided to prioritize impressing him over respecting her husband. If she's going to cross that line publicly, she can face the consequences publicly." Attorney Williams studied me for a moment. "You're angrier than you're letting on." "Shouldn't I be? I've given her 5 years of my life. I've supported her career, moved cities for her job, put my own ambitions on hold. And she's throwing it away for what? Some fantasy with her boss." "I understand. But anger can be expensive in divorce proceedings. We need to be strategic." She pulled out forms. "I'm going to file these tomorrow. We'll have a process server deliver them to the restaurant during her party. Since you won't be there, you'll need to be somewhere else, somewhere with witnesses, ideally." "I'll be at my brother's place." "Good. Now, about assets." We spent the next hour going through everything. The apartment we rented, no issue there. The cars, one each, both in individual names. The savings account, I'd opened a separate one last week and transferred exactly half. Her retirement fund, my retirement fund, all separate due to her company's policies. "You've been preparing for this," she observed. I gave her a clear warning. I told her exactly what would happen. She chose not to believe me. As I left the office that afternoon, documents signed and filed, I felt a strange mixture of relief and grief. This was really happening. My marriage was ending, not with a slow fade but with a deliberate cut. Over the next few days, I moved through life in a fog. I went to work, came home, and slept in the guest room. My wife and I barely spoke. She was busy planning her party, texting constantly, and I was busy packing my essentials into boxes I stored at my brother's place. "Are you sure about this?" my brother asked as I brought over the third box. "Did I tell you about the password?" "What password?" "I noticed last month that she'd changed her phone password. We'd always had an open phone policy, not that we checked each other's phones, but we could if we needed to. Suddenly, she's got a 6-digit code she won't share." My brother winced. "That's not good." When I asked about it, she said her company required better security for work emails. But her work email is a separate app with its own password. "Did you tell the lawyer?" "Didn't need to. The pattern is clear enough." The day before the party, my wife actually tried to talk to me. "You're really not coming tomorrow?" "I told you I wouldn't." "This is childish. You're punishing me for having a career and work friends." I looked at her, really looked at her. She'd already done her hair and nails for tomorrow. She'd bought a new dress, one I'd never seen. "Who are you trying to look good for tomorrow?" "It's my birthday. I'm allowed to want to look nice." You look nice every day. This is different. This is more. She rolled her eyes. I can't do this with you. You've decided to see something that isn't there, and nothing I say will change your mind. You're right, I said quietly. Nothing you say at this point will change my mind. Only what you do could have done that, and you've already made your choice. That night, I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would change everything. Tomorrow, she would walk into that restaurant expecting a celebration and find instead the end of her marriage. Part of me felt guilty about the public nature of it. But a larger part felt that it was appropriate. She'd made our private pain public by refusing to acknowledge it. Now everyone would see. My phone buzzed. A text from Attorney Williams. Process server confirmed for 7:30 p.m. Are you absolutely certain? I typed back, yes. There was no going back now. The restaurant buzzed with conversation and laughter. 23 people had confirmed attendance for my wife's birthday celebration. Colleagues, a few old friends, her sister. The private dining room was decorated with balloons and a banner that read Happy Birthday. But I wasn't there to see it. I sat in my brother's living room, checking my watch obsessively. 7:15 p.m. The party had started at 7 o'clock. The process server would arrive in 15 minutes. You okay? My brother asked, handing me a beer I didn't want. Not really. At the restaurant, my wife held court at the head of the table. She looked radiant in her new emerald dress, her hair perfectly styled. Next to her, in the seat that should have been mine, sat Daniel. I can't believe he didn't show up to his own wife's birthday, whispered Sarah from accounting to the woman next to her. Trouble in paradise, the woman whispered back. My wife's sister, Rachel, kept glancing at the empty seat, her expression troubled. She'd pulled my wife aside before dinner. Where is he? This is weird. He's being dramatic, my wife had said dismissively. He'll get over it. Get over what? But my wife had just waved her hand and returned to the table, to Daniel, who was regaling the group with a story about their recent business trip to Chicago. My wife laughed at all the right moments, touched his arm familiarly, and if anyone noticed the intimacy between them, they were too polite to comment. At 7:30 exactly, a woman in a business suit entered the private dining room. The conversation died down as she looked around. I'm looking for Mrs. Peterson. My wife looked up, confused. That's me. You've been served. The woman handed her a manila envelope and walked out. The room fell silent. My wife stared at the envelope like it might explode. What is that? Daniel asked, leaning closer. With trembling hands, she opened it. I'd made sure the first page was clear and unmistakable. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The color drained from her face. No. No, he didn't. Is that? Rachel stood up, moving toward her sister. Are those divorce papers? He served you with divorce papers at your birthday party, someone gasped. My wife looked around the room, at all the eyes now fixed on her, and something crumbled in her expression. This is insane. He's insane. What happened? Sarah asked. I thought you guys were fine. We are fine. This is, but she couldn't finish the sentence. Her hands shook as she flipped through the pages. There, in legal language, was everything. The grounds for divorce, the division of assets, the requested dissolution date. Daniel reached for the papers. Let me see. Don't touch them. Rachel snapped, surprising everyone. She turned to her sister. He warned you, didn't he? He told you not to invite Daniel. The room's attention shifted to Daniel, who suddenly looked uncomfortable. What does that have to do with anything? My wife said, but her voice wavered. Oh my God, Sarah said slowly, looking between my wife and Daniel. Is something going on with you two? No. We're just friends. Colleagues. But even as she said it, everyone could see how close they were sitting, how his hand had been resting on the back of her chair, how they'd been in their own little bubble all evening. Just colleagues don't destroy marriages, an older man from their office said quietly. He stood up. I think I should go. This isn't appropriate. Others began to murmur agreement. The celebration was collapsing. Wait, please. My wife stood up, the papers scattering across the table. This is all a misunderstanding. He's being paranoid and jealous. Is he though? Rachel's voice was cold. I've watched you two all evening. I've seen the texts you send at all hours. I've heard you talk about Daniel constantly. Mom asked me last month if something was going on between you two. My wife's face flushed. You're my sister. You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side. That's why I'm asking, is there something going on? The silence stretched. My wife looked at Daniel, and in that look, everyone saw the truth. Nothing physical, she whispered. We just talk. We're friends. Friends don't end marriages, the older colleague repeated, now joined by others gathering their things. I'm sorry, but I can't stay for this. Within 10 minutes, half the party had left. Those who remained did so out of obligation or morbid curiosity. The servers, sensing the disaster, had stopped bringing food. Rachel picked up the divorce papers, reading through them. He documented everything. Times you texted Daniel past midnight. Credit card charges for lunches and dinners. He even noted that you changed your phone password and wouldn't share it. That's private. Not in a marriage, it's not. Rachel's voice rose. What were you thinking? You have a good man at home, and you're throwing it away for what? An emotional affair with your boss. It's not an affair. Then what is it? Rachel gestured to Daniel. Why is he here instead of your husband? Why did you choose him over your marriage? My wife sank into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Around her, the few remaining guests sat in awkward silence. The birthday cake, still uncut, sat on the side table like a monument to the celebration that should have been. Daniel cleared his throat. Maybe I should go. Yes, Rachel said sharply. You should. He stood, hesitated, looked at my wife as if to say something, then thought better of it. As he left, my wife watched him go, and in that moment, everyone saw it. The longing, the connection, the thing she'd been denying was real. You love him, Rachel said softly. Or you think you do. My wife buried her face in her hands. I didn't sleep that night. My phone remained silent. No calls, no texts from my wife. Part of me had expected her to reach out, to apologize, to beg me to reconsider. But there was nothing. At 9:47 p.m., my brother's doorbell rang. Rachel stood there, looking exhausted. She's at our mom's, Rachel said, accepting the coffee I offered. Complete breakdown. The party ended before 8:30. She's been crying for hours. I'm sorry you had to. Don't apologize. You tried to handle this privately. She forced your hand. Rachel wrapped her hands around the mug. I need to tell you something. About Daniel. I waited. He's married too. Has been for 12 years. 3 kids. The information hit me like a physical blow. She knew this. Oh, she knew. She's met his wife at company events. She's seen pictures of his kids on his desk. Rachel's expression hardened. And she still let it get this far. Does his wife know? Not yet. But she will. Several people from the office were at that party tonight. Word is already spreading. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Rachel asked the question I'd been asking myself. Do you think they slept together? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think so. I think it was all emotional. The texting, the lunches, the late nights working. But in some ways, that's worse. Physical affairs can be about physical need, momentary weakness. This was a choice she made every single day. She keeps saying you're overreacting. That nothing happened. Nothing happened. I felt anger rising. She developed a relationship with another man that superseded our marriage. She prioritized his feelings over mine. She chose to spend her emotional energy on him instead of us. Just because they didn't have sex doesn't mean she didn't cheat. Rachel nodded. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It took guts. After she left, I finally looked at my phone. There were messages, but not from my wife. They were from mutual friends who'd heard about the party. I can't believe she did that to you. You deserved better than this. I always thought Daniel was too close. I should have said something. The last message was from my wife's best friend, Melissa, who hadn't been at the party. I knew about Daniel. She confided in me months ago. I told her she was playing with fire. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I thought she would come to her senses. I stared at that message for a long time. How many people had known? How many had watched my marriage crumble and said nothing? The next morning, I went to work despite wanting to hide in my brother's apartment forever. My phone rang constantly, Attorney Williams checking in, my own friends offering support, even a few of my wife's colleagues calling to apologize for not seeing what was happening. At lunch, I finally received a text from my wife. We need to talk. Please. I didn't respond immediately. What was there to say? But curiosity got the better of me. I called. Hello. Her voice was hoarse from crying. You wanted to talk. I'm sorry. About last night. About everything. You were right. What was I right about? Daniel and I. It wasn't appropriate. I let our friendship become something it shouldn't have been. But we never. I don't care if you had sex with him or not, I interrupted. You checked out of our marriage. You gave him the parts of you that should have been mine, your attention, your thoughts, your emotional intimacy. You let him become more important than me. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. Every text you sent him late at night was a choice. Every lunch, every inside joke, every time you defended him over me, those were choices. You chose him. Silence. Then, can we fix this? Can we go to counseling? You should have suggested counseling 3 months ago when I first told you I was uncomfortable. You should have set boundaries with Daniel. You should have fought for us. Instead, you invited him to your birthday party after I explicitly told you not to. I know. I was wrong. I see that now. You see it now because there are consequences. You see it now because your birthday party turned into a public humiliation. You see it now because your colleagues know, your family knows, and soon Daniel's wife will know too. She gasped. What? He's married. 3 kids. Did you think about them? Did you think about his wife when you were texting him good morning every day? That's different. No, it's not. It's exactly the same. You both betrayed your spouses for some fantasy relationship that exists in texts and lingering looks. Please, she whispered. I love you. I made mistakes, but I love you. If you loved me, you would have stopped when I first asked you to. If you loved me, you would have chosen me over him. If you loved me, your birthday party wouldn't have been your husband's divorce announcement. So that's it. 5 years of marriage, and you're just done. No. 5 years of marriage, 8 months of emotional infidelity, and 2 weeks of clear warnings that you ignored. That's what ended this. I'm just the one who made it official. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Despite everything, the anger, the hurt, the certainty that divorce was right, part of me still loved her. Part of me still remembered the woman I'd married, before Daniel, before the late-night texts, before she'd chosen him over us. That afternoon, I learned that Daniel had been called into HR. Several employees had filed complaints about inappropriate behavior with a subordinate. My wife wasn't technically his direct report, but the relationship was still problematic. The company had strict policies about such things. By evening, Daniel had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. His wife had been informed. Their company-provided housing was suddenly in question. I felt no satisfaction in any of this. Just a deep, aching sadness for all the destruction caused by what my wife kept insisting was just friendship. 3 weeks later, I sat in a coffee shop downtown, watching rain streak the windows. The divorce was proceeding smoothly, No contested assets, no children to complicate matters. Attorney Williams said we could be done within 2 months. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. This is Daniel's wife. Can we talk? I debated ignoring it, but curiosity won. Okay. She arrived 20 minutes later, a tired-looking woman in her 40s with kind eyes that had seen too much recently. We sat across from each other, two casualties of someone else's poor choices. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I needed to understand what happened. Daniel won't talk about it, and your wife, well. What do you want to know? Everything. From your perspective. So I told her. The progression of the relationship, the late-night texts, the changed password, the warning I'd given, the choice my wife made. I showed her the timeline I'd documented for my lawyer. She listened without interrupting, her coffee growing cold in front of her. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. He had an affair 5 years ago, she finally said. Physical that time. We went to counseling, worked through it. I thought we were past this. She laughed bitterly. I guess he just got better at hiding it.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. You did me a favor, actually. If you hadn't served those papers at the party, if those colleagues hadn't witnessed it, I might never have known. He'd still be coming home every night, pretending everything was fine while having his emotional affair with your wife. What are you going to do? Divorce him. He's already lost his job. The company decided the liability was too great. We're losing the company housing. My kids are devastated. Her voice hardened. But I'm not going to stay with someone who can't respect our marriage. Not again. After she left, I thought about how many lives had been appended. My wife and I were divorcing. Daniel's marriage was ending. His children's lives were disrupted. Colleagues felt betrayed and uncomfortable. All because two people couldn't maintain appropriate boundaries. That night, my wife called again. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. I met with a therapist today, she said without preamble. She helped me understand some things. Good. I was having an emotional affair. I know you've been saying that, but I couldn't see it. Or didn't want to. But it's true. I was getting from Daniel what I should have been getting from you, or what I should have been building with you. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to hear it. You deserve an actual apology, not just I'm sorry you're upset. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for betraying your trust. I'm sorry for choosing my ego and the attention Daniel gave me over our marriage. I didn't speak, letting her words hang in the air. I'm not asking you to take me back, she continued. I know I destroyed that possibility. But I wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. And I'm sorry I made you feel crazy for seeing what was obvious. Thank you, I said quietly. That actually means something. Daniel and we're not in contact anymore. I'm looking for a new job. His wife deserves not to have to see me at company events, and honestly, I can't face what I did. That's probably wise. Can I ask you something? When did you know it was over? I thought back to that night in the kitchen, to the moment she clutched her phone instead of showing me the texts. When you chose to protect your relationship with him over transparency with me. That's when I knew you'd already made your choice. I wish I'd chosen differently. So do I. We said goodbye, and this time it felt final. Not angry or bitter, just sad, the kind of sadness that comes from acknowledging something valuable that's been lost. 6 weeks after the birthday party, the divorce was finalized. I kept my car, my retirement fund, and half our savings. She kept hers. We split some furniture. It was all remarkably civilized, probably because she knew she had no leg to stand on. I ran into Rachel one day at the grocery store. She told me my ex-wife was dating someone new, not Daniel, someone she'd met online. Too soon, Rachel said, shaking her head. She hasn't learned anything. Maybe she hadn't. Or maybe some people need to go through multiple failures before they understand the pattern. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. As for me, I threw myself into work, reconnected with friends I'd neglected, took up running. Slowly, the hurt faded into something manageable, not gone, but no longer consuming. I'd learned an important lesson. When someone shows you through their actions that they don't value what you have together, believe them. And more importantly, value yourself enough to walk away. Some months later, I heard that Daniel and his wife had finalized their divorce too. He'd moved to another city, starting over with his career in shambles and his family broken. My ex-wife had been laid off when her company downsized and was struggling to find equivalent work. Turned out having an affair with your boss wasn't great for professional references. I felt no satisfaction in their struggles. Just a lingering sadness for all the unnecessary destruction. 2 marriages ended, children hurt, careers damaged, all because 2 people couldn't maintain boundaries and 1 person refused to listen when warned. A year later, I started dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee dates and movies, learning to trust again. And one evening, sitting across from a woman who laughed at my jokes and asked about my day with genuine interest, I realized something. I was happy. Not the wild happiness of new love or the comfortable happiness of long partnership, but the quiet happiness of someone who'd survived something painful and come out stronger. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're well. You deserved better than what I gave you. Her. I looked at the message for a moment, then deleted it without responding. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. I'd warned her what would happen if she crossed that line. She'd crossed it anyway. The consequences had played out exactly as I'd said they would. And now, finally, I was free to move forward, wiser, more cautious, but also more certain of what I deserved. Someone who would choose me, consistently and without question, every single time. The woman across from me asked if everything was okay. I smiled, put my phone away, and said, everything's perfect. And for the first time in over a year, I meant it.